So quickly to talk about the past 2 chapters of the 7 Deadly Sins, aka Nanatsu no Taizai. A couple things to discuss. To be honest with you, last week's chapter, I felt as though it was okay. Honestly, the biggest thing that we got in that chapter was the reveal that the true Galdor of the 10 Commandments is back and in full effect, basically seemingly the evil, because I mean he recognized who he was, right? When he was like getting out of the cell, he realized, okay, I'm Galdor of the 10 Commandments. I don't think Galdor prior to these events actually knew of his origin. I might be mistaken, but up until that point he was always saying, I'm Galdor of the 7 Deadly Sins, you know, I'm Galdor of, you know, the good guys or whatever. But now him saying that, it kind of makes me question, is he truly riding for the 10 Commandments? Is he back to his old ways, or is it a trick, or what's going on? I mean, if the good guys got you, and the second you get loose, you say that, like, hey, I'm with the bad guys, actually, it's probably meaning that the true nasty Galdor has returned. And to be honest with you, just quickly diving into Galdor's character, with everything that Galdor has put the Sins through, as far as, like, being a piece of shit, taking people's memories away, just doing so many horrible things, I honestly think that Galdor really needs his ass whipped. Like, I was really hoping that Escanor was going to be the one to put this little motherfucker in his place, because he's never going to change. Galdor's never going to learn his lesson. This little fucking trap is never going to change, because he continues to be a dick and do stupid shit, and now he's back with the 10 Commandments. So I really hope the next time he encounters one of the 7 Deadly Sins and he pulls this bullshit of, hey, I'm an asshole, hey, I'm going to do some dickish things, one of them just beat the living fuck out of Galdor, because it's a long time coming, and that's how I feel regarding the character. And I think that's how he's been built up until this point. I don't know if it's been intentional from the author's perspective or whatever, but he's just done so many fucked up things, and now he's saying he's rocking with the 10 Commandments. Beat his ass, please. Somebody just stomp a fucking mud hole in this motherfucker's ass. Another thing from that chapter, I guess that was kind of relevant, was Hauser as the head of the captains. But I honestly feel with that chapter, what I feel with a lot of chapters of 7 Deadly Sins, whenever you take the 7 Deadly Sins themselves out of a chapter, you have none of them in a chapter. That's when I feel as though a chapter kind of feels a little less than what it would normally feel. Like with that chapter, I think towards the end, all you had was like, you know, the Galdor situation. That was the best part of the chapter. But when you have like just the Holy Knights, I think that's one of the things about 7 Deadly Sins, is that maybe the 7 Deadly Sins themselves are so interesting that when you take them out of the equation for a story, or, you know, a chapter, whatever the case may be, it always feels as though the chapter's lacking a little bit of something. And finding out about Hauser being the head captain, it's kind of cool. I felt he was a little bit ridiculous for recommending people like Hendrickson and Dreyfus to be the next head captain. Like, no one is ever gonna trust these two motherfuckers after what they did. Like, you know, no matter if they were being controlled or they were being told to do it or whatever, they had their hands tied behind their back while they were doing this shit, they still did many fucked up things. The public aren't gonna trust them, and even if they're good right now, which, yeah, they're good or whatever, like, it doesn't matter. The public image of them have been smeared because they've done a lot of horrible things, whether under their own control or not. It was them that did it. And then, of course, the naked party with King and Diane that ended last week's chapter and started off with this week's chapter. I'm not gonna lie. Diane though. That Diane. Funny jokes though regarding King's wiener and his fucking wings and shit like that. There was some funny stuff with that, I'm not gonna lie. But honestly, this chapter is where I felt like it was starting to really set up good. Like opposed to last week's chapter, I'd say last week's chapter is probably average chapter, maybe 5 to a 6 if you're pushing it out of 10. Biggest two things is Hauser, new head captain, and the return of Galdor of the 10 Commandments, opposed to him being Galdor of the 7 Deadly Sins. So that was a big part of that chapter. But this chapter, we got huge setup for a throwdown with King, Diane, Gloxinia, and Delore. I think that's how you pronounce it. Now, honestly, I don't see, unless we get some crazy BS, like there's only one logical thing where I could see kind of King getting a huge power up and maybe Diane getting stronger than she is right now, but I don't see it being capable of being that much, because King, if he sprouts his wings, that might give him a huge power up enough to, I don't know if he can necessarily surpass Gloxinia, but maybe it'll give him a decent power up, and that's probably why the author Nakaba has been hinting at him trying to get his wings, because maybe it'll give him a huge power up. Again, it's going to be a crazy power up to go from, what is he, like 3,000, 2,000, whatever the case may be, maybe 4,000, I don't remember his power level, but he's supposed to jump from that to like 50, 60,000 if he wants to keep up with people like Gloxinia. So is a couple of wings really going to give him that much of a jump? Because that's how I foresee him getting the power up in order to keep up with them. I don't know. Diane, in order for her to keep up with the lore, I feel as though one thing is she has to get her full-on 100% memories back, which I don't even remember if she has the memories back. Like, again, Seven Deadly Sins has been a little wonky with a lot of things, but she has to get her 100% memories back, and I don't really know what else could be a big power-up enough to help her defeat the lore, because even memories really shouldn't give her that much of a boost to be able to fuck shit up. But this week's chapter, definitely exciting and a good chapter, decent to good. I want to say maybe 6.5, 7 if you're stretching it, because it was a decent setup. Really exciting as far as this fight goes. But again, besides King being able to get his wings, which would be a power-up, I don't see how they have any chance, a snowball's chance in hell against Gloxinia and Delore when they're just way the fuck up there. And these two in particular are some of the weakest of all the sins. So it's going to be an interesting fight, and it's going to be interesting to see how Nakaba can creatively and realistically, as far as the context of the series go, make a decent fight where King and Diane can obviously come out on top, because, you know, the good guys gotta win, but in a realistic manner that doesn't seem like straight up bullshit. Aside from, again, King getting his wings, I don't know how that's gonna go down. Let me know what you guys think of the past two chapters. How do you feel about Galdor seemingly returning to the 10 Commandments? Obviously, Galdor getting those memories back and that, I guess, seal back in a way to being part of the 10 Commandments is probably because Fraudrin was, you know, defeated or whatever, and I believe Fraudrin was a placeholder for Galdor, so probably when Fraudrin died, that was, the power went right back to Galdor. And what do you think about this fight? How are King and Diane going to be capable of keeping up with the lore and Gloxinia? Is it going to be the wings that King gets? You know, he sprouts his wings during this fight, and it's going to give him a massive boost. And how's Diane going to be able to keep up against the lore? Again, I see them getting Shrek'd. I don't see any possible logical way of them completely owning them other than some power-ups, unless they get some help, because I don't think they could be that far away from Matrona and them. Maybe Matrona show up and help against the lore. And your overall thoughts of the chapter. Honestly, right now it's starting to heat up again and it's getting exciting. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and stalk my Facebook to get more when the video ends. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.